What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg with a look at the Google Chromebook Pixel. So this is famous for two reasons. One of them is the high resolution display, indicated by the Pixel name of course. This is the highest resolution display of any laptop on the market, beating Apple's own MacBook Pro with Retina display. Now this also has a very high price tag, which is the other feature we're talking about here. $12.99 gets you started. So at $12.99 you get 32 gigs, Wi-Fi only. If you want 64 gigs of internal storage, you have to upgrade to the $14.49 version, which also adds 4G LTE from Verizon. This is also designed entirely in-house. So this is Google's own design, Google's own product. They didn't partner with Samsung or Acer on this. So this is largely here to inspire other manufacturers to do better with their hardware. So instead of racing to the bottom to get to the cheapest hardware possible, Google has gone all out here to show you what you can do with the Chromebook experience. Now the Google Chromebook design is all about minimalism. In fact, it extends to the packaging. So all you see is the Google name on the top, and you see the hallmark feature or the signature feature of the Pixel, which is this sort of light bar. It's ornamental. You'll find this on the back of the laptop, and we'll show you that once we get it out of the box. Now you also won't find any of the specs indicated on the box, so let's go through some of those. So we have the Intel Core i5 processor powering this, so that's dual core running at 1.8 gigahertz. We also have 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and we have Intel's HD Graphics 4000 integrated GPU. All right, so let's crack this open and see what we get. So we're just gonna slice the plastic right here. We have a little magnetic flap here to lift up, and inside is the plastic wrap Chromebook. Very minimal. All you see is that slate black top panel, same with the bottom. Very simple. We're going to set that aside and take a look to see what we get inside the box. So we have a little card here, which is technical support. So there is some technical support backing up this purchase. So you have a number you can call. We also have our accessories. So we have our power brick here, the chrome branding on it. We also have our set of folding prongs here for traveling, and you can see we have an eject button here to remove the wall adapter. So if you press and hold that and pull up or pull out, you can remove the prongs. It's not the easiest thing to do. There we go. As you can see, we have our connectors in here, and they've included an extension cable. So if you want to extend the range of your wall adapter to your laptop, you have that option. And we also have our safety and warranty information neatly packed in this envelope. Now the booklet is pretty standard fare. There's not a lot of information here that's useful, but there is a diagram of what all the buttons and ports are. This is particularly useful because none of them are actually labeled on the laptop. So something worth pointing out here is if you get the LTE version, you'll have these extra antennas built into the top of the laptop. So the surface area behind the screen, you'll have these antennas built into the corners, and that's the LED indicator, just to give you an idea of the orientation here. So you can see all the ports labeled along the side as well. Now getting back to the Pixel, let's go ahead and remove this envelope. So we have a little tab here. It should slide right out. There we go. All right, so let's take a look around the hardware. So we do have an all aluminum unibody design. It's milled out of metal, so it's no plastic here. Very high quality. You can see it's very angular in its design, very industrial. So along the side we'll find our power connector. So this is a friction fitting, that's not a magnetic fitting. You have our display port and our two USB 2.0 ports. Notice that there is no labeling on these ports. We also have our combination microphone and headphone jack. Along the front, you'll find our thumb port for lifting up the lid, as well as that ornamental LED indicator. Along the side, you'll find our SD card slot, and if you have the LTE version, you'll also find the slot here for the LTE SIM card. On the back, you'll find your hinge, and you'll also find some branding here for Chrome. Now on the bottom, you'll find a whole lot of nothing. In fact, it looks like the top of the laptop, except for the fact it has these rubber feet at each corner. Now on the bottom you also find our FCC information as well as our serial number, and the fact that this was made in China, not the US like the Nexus Q, the other Google made product. Alright, so let's go ahead and open this up for the first time and take a look. So you can see it's pretty reflective. The display is pretty reflective, although there are some anti-glare properties here, similar to the MacBook Pro with Retina display, but not quite as effective. Now you can see just how quickly it boots up. It's very fast. As soon as you open it up, it powers on for you. Now all I have to do is set this up for the first time. But before I do, I just want to talk about this display. Now one of its unique characteristics is the fact that this is not a traditional widescreen display. This is a 3x2 display, which gives more vertical space for web browsing, which is kind of the ideal use case for the Chromebook. It's very web dependent. So it's not great for watching movies because you'll get letterboxing, but it's great for scrolling through content on websites. All right, the first thing I need to do is select my language. English, United States is default. We're going to go with the US keyboard, and we're going to choose my wireless network here. I just have to log into that. All right, so I'm all set. Let's continue. And we're going to agree to the terms and conditions. And now it's running the update, so it's going to install all the updates to get us going. All right, now that the software is installed and restarted the computer, we can go ahead and log into our Google account. All right, so I'm logged into my Google account. It wants me to pick my picture to display for my accounts. I'm just going to go with my Google picture here. All right, so that's all there is to it. I'm logged in, and it automatically transfers all my account information to my Chromebook. So all my bookmarks, my contacts, my calendaring, and everything related to my Google account is immediately available on my Chromebook. And since I'm an existing Chromebook user, my Chromebook bookmarks or apps have automatically preloaded as well. So I can see everything here in my, my apps tray showing up. So everything I've previously downloaded is right here. So including TweetDeck, Facebook, Netflix, and that sort of thing. And you can see they've preloaded quite a few apps. So of course we have the Chrome browser. Now this is based entirely on the Chrome browser. So actually what appear to be apps are actually just bookmarks. So for example, if we click on Gmail, it launches Gmail into the browser. If we launch Google Play Music, launches the Google Play Music website. And you can see it's basically tab browsing here. Now if you want to add more, all you have to do is go to the Chrome Web Store. Again, opens up as a tab in the Chrome browser, and here you can add apps. So for example, we can search by category. So we can see YouTube, which is already installed. You can see that check mark next to all of them indicating which ones I've already installed. Google Calendar. So we have Google Reader. We have Gmail Offline, which is offline email. You have games and that sort of thing. Picasa, Internet TV, and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and install one. Let's start with Dropbox. We're going to add to Chrome, add Dropbox, and there you go. So Dropbox is now available to me, and again it just opens up in the Chrome web browser. If you look in our taskbar here, you can see that tabs or websites I currently have open illuminate. So you can see that there's a little light underneath each icon indicating which one is open and available. So if I want to jump to them, all I have to do is hit them. So that's kind of like basically app switching. So if you, for example, if you're used to this experience on Mac OS X or Windows 8, it's very similar. So if you launch anything, again, you can see that light bar appears underneath each app. Now if you close anything, you can see they all disappear. Now as you can see, we have our desktop, and you can set your own wallpaper just by using two fingers as a right-click gesture on the trackpad. And here you go, you can select your own wallpaper. You can also select your own. So you can go to choose a file, and this will launch our file browser or our file manager. So here you can go to what we have downloaded to this computer. So we do have 32 gigs of storage, so you can save documents, or you can go right to Google Drive. And they do give you 1 terabyte of free storage when you get a Chromebook, which is good for 3 years. So they really intend for this to be sort of a cloud storage device. So even though you only get 32 gigs of local storage, you have up to 1 terabyte in the cloud. Now you can also modify how these apps behave when you open them. So if you right click, you have options to open as a regular tab, open as a pinned tab, open as a window, open maximized. You can also auto hide the launcher, so it will hide the launcher from view. And as soon as you move your cursor back down there, it will wake it up. So let's undo that. We also have other options here, such as deleting these apps. So if you don't want Dropbox here, again, right click, and you have the option to remove from Chrome. Remove, and there you go. Now you can also add apps to the launcher. So if you want Netflix in the launcher, just right click on Netflix and go to Pin to Launcher up here. And now you can see it's in your launcher. And again, you can move this around just by tapping and holding on the trackpad. Now, Chrome OS works because Google provides a lot of services for free. That includes Office suites like Google Docs. You have Google Docs, Google Sheets, which is an Excel equivalent, as well as Google Slides, which is a PowerPoint equivalent. You have Google Maps, Google Calendar, Gmail, YouTube, Google Search. You also have Google Drive, again, for that free online storage. In terms of windowing, we have several options here. So we can go to full screen mode just by maximizing it. We can also hover our cursor over the maximize, and we can do left justify or right justify, and we can do minimize. So that will minimize it to the task manager. Now we can also open several windows here. So if we don't want everything to be in the same browser, so for example, if we want our music in one window, just go to new window, launches it into a separate window. We can go to Gmail, launches that into another window, and we can continue launching other things in that window. So we have YouTube, we have search, and let's launch something else. Let's do Google Maps. So this allows us to, for example, keep Google Music in its own dedicated window, and we can minimize that. So for example, we want to play our music in the background and don't want to accidentally close it when we close our browser window. That's one way to manage that, and you can jump right to it just by tapping on it. Now, because this is a touchscreen, we can also interact with it. So for example, let's go to full screen mode on our map here, and we can pinch in and zoom. We can scroll around. So let's go and pinch in on Michigan. Zoom out. You can zoom all the way in. You can also tap on anything here. So you can launch one of my bookmarks here for Amazon. We can go to Google Plus, and we can close it just by tapping that. So you get the idea here. You can even drag things around with your finger. Now, of course, you can also scroll through a website, and it has kinetic scrolling and everything like that. Now, what you can't do is pinch in and out to zoom. That's a behavior you're used to on things like a tablet. You can't do that here in this case. So you can tap on an article to launch it and scroll through it. You can see the Chromebook is pretty quick. Now, the trackpad is all glass, similar to a MacBook Pro, with a very nice etched texture to it. It's different than the MacBook Pro. This feels a little silkier. It feels very nice. I really like this trackpad. It has just the right amount of friction for accurate selection. Now, the keyboard itself is redesigned or unique to the Chromebook. So for example, we have our search key in place of the caps lock key. We also have a lot of dedicated function keys up here. So we have escape. We have our back and forward key for browser navigation. We have our refresh button to refresh the page. We have our full screen button. We also have our basically our Alt-Tab function here, so it allows you to cycle between different windows. You also have our screen brightness controls. We have our audio controls for mute, as well as volume up or volume down, and we have our power control. Now, if you want to activate Caps Lock, all you have to do is hit Alt Search, the Alt Search button. That'll activate or deactivate it. In fact, if you look in the system tray over here, you'll see it activated. So you see a little icon indicating Caps Lock. Now, the keyboard itself is very shallow. Again, very similar to a MacBook Air. Feels very comfortable if you're used to that experience. I have no problems with it. Very nice keyboard. Now, as you can see, the keyboard backlighting is pretty familiar here. It looks very much like a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro. Got that same white light, so it's pretty bright. It's not overly bright or annoying. It's just about perfect. So you can see the keys, you can see the outlines of the keys and the information on them. Now, the big story here is that high resolution display. So we have a resolution of 2560 by 1700, which is good for 239 ppi. Now, by comparison, the 13-inch MacBook Pro with a Retina display has a resolution of 2560 by 1600, which is good for 227 ppi. So that's slightly better pixels per inch than even the MacBook Pro with Retina display. You can also see we have a very different aspect ratio here than most laptops. So we have a 3:2 aspect ratio versus usually a wider aspect ratio like 16:9 or 16:10. Now, although it's kind of hard to illustrate here on camera because of the Moyer effect I'm getting right now, but the pixel density is so high that it's really difficult to discern the pixels with the naked eye. So I'm really zoomed up here on the laptop. In fact, my camera is sitting right on top of the keyboard right now as I look at this. So, for example, all of these apps icons are optimized for the higher resolution display. Now, this works especially well for text, which renders natively in the resolution, in this high resolution. So reading text looks particularly good on this display. Now, in terms of off-axis viewing, this display is superb, one of the best I've seen. So you can see there's basically no wrong angle to look at this thing. So it holds its color fidelity pretty nicely. Now, the speakers are built behind the keyboard, and they sound pretty loud and pretty clear.
Dreamt of tyranny.
So we're watching a movie right now.
Overmatched and outnumbered, our defeat was all but certain.
So it's definitely on the high end in terms of audio quality for most laptops. Now in terms of video playback, I do have a lot of performance issues with the Pixel. So you can see right now I'm playing back from the Google Play Store, playing back Transformers. So you can see we have some frame dropping, some artifacting, some compression errors. A lot of times it would just completely stall and stop on a frame. So you can see a lot of problems here. So there's still some issues in terms of playback performance, especially on this high resolution display. So hopefully that's something they can fix in future software updates. Now one of the neat design aspects of the Chromebook is this ornamental LED strip on the back of the display. So you can see it lights in blue while you're using the Chromebook. So when the display is up, it's lit in blue. And it kind of strobes every 6 seconds, about 6 seconds from left to right. So it's a very neat detail. Now Google has built in a neat little Easter egg here. So if you enter in the Konami code in the keyboard, which is up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, you get a little light show. Now when you close the Chromebook, you can see that that light strip strobes in the Google colors and then goes dim. Now in conclusion, I'm probably not going to say what others haven't already said about the Pixel, which is the fact that this is a very expensive laptop. It's beautiful hardware, there's no mistaking that. It's great design. I think it's one of the best looking laptops you can buy, one of the best pieces of industrial design you can buy right now. But at $1,300 without a full operating system, I think it's kind of a waste. So I do like Chrome OS, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great operating system, but I think it's best suited toward entry-level laptops, especially laptops or users who don't need to install heavy-duty or professional apps like Final Cut Pro or Photoshop. Most people don't need those type of apps, so they don't need heavy-duty computers like this or expensive computers like this. So the Chrome operating system is best suited for those users. Now, if you put Chrome OS on a device like this, I don't see where it makes a lot of sense. Now, I really like the display, that touch screen display, the high-resolution touchscreen display. Certainly is a reason for a lot of people to consider this, but you might as well look at a MacBook Pro with Retina display for $200 more. It gets you much more powerful internal hardware. You also get a full operating system with a lot more options for apps and that sort of thing. So I like the Chromebook, but it's definitely not for everybody. So for those who like Google, who really know how to leverage Google's resources, who really know how to optimize those resources and use them to their fullest potential, I think this is a great laptop. But for everybody else who are really interested in Chrome, I think the Samsung Chromebook is still the best option to get. So that's going to do for me, guys, in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.